If I were to ask you, what is the law? What would you say? Most people intuitively think of the law as a system of rules alongside a system of punishment for breaking those rules. And they tend to think about those rules and the punishments for breaking them in rather moralistic terms. Judges punish bad actors who are guilty of wrongdoing. These are all morally laden terms. But if you ask the lawyers and you ask the judges, this really isn't how they think about the law. Some parts of the law are formally structured. For instance, much of the tax code aspires to mathematical levels of precision, and the criminal law really is in many ways about moral judgment. But most of the law isn't like this. We encounter a boundless range of situations in our day-to-day lives, any of which can put our interests into conflict with those of others. Most of the law is concerned with mediating these conflicts, and it does so with principles of reasonableness, not with formal rules. It asks, what would the typical member of society have done under the same circumstances? Or could people reasonably anticipate how what you were doing could injure them so that they could take their own precautions against harm? For instance, if you're driving down the road at a typical speed, pedestrians know when it's safe to cross the street. If they jump out in front of your car and you hit them, you might not owe them any damages. But if you're driving faster than is typical on that road and the pedestrian steps out into it and you hit them, then you might be liable. Not because you were doing something morally problematic, speeding, but because you put the pedestrian in a position where they couldn't easily protect themselves from being hit by you. Famous jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes called the idea that the law is based in logic a fallacy. He said, "This mode of thinking is entirely natural, but the certainty offered by logic generally is illusion. Behind the logical form lies a judgment as to the relative worth and importance of competing values." If, for instance, as a society, we value the convenience of being able to drive quickly more than we value pedestrian safety, then the law is going to put more burden on pedestrians to be careful around cars. If we value pedestrian safety over driver convenience, then the law will place more burden on drivers to be careful around pedestrians. There is no right answer here beyond society's priorities. And these rules aren't always going to be the same. We expect different rules about cars around interstates versus rural roads, or in busy towns or during rush hour than when there aren't many cars on the road. And these rules change over time. Different rules in the 2020s and the 1970s and the 1920s, when cars were new and frequently shared the road with horses. There's a huge difference between acting unpredictably and acting immorally. Good people have accidents all the time. The fact that you didn't act with ill intent doesn't mean that you shouldn't compensate someone when you injure them. And the fact that you should compensate someone when you injure them doesn't mean that either you or the other guy is a bad person. The law is about figuring out how we work together as a society, how we encourage good and discourage bad action in society. And when accidents and mistakes and misunderstandings happen, as they do all the time, the law provides a way to help the parties affected to make amends.